So there are a couple possibilities with regards to whether or not we will desire what people in the high levels of Jannah have, and what that may do as well. So one of the possibilities is we could desire what the people in the higher levels of Jannah have, but not get it, which is obvious. Of course, with many things that will happen, we could know. So necessarily, if you desire something, you have some knowledge about it, to some extent, at the very least, that it exists. So by the fact that the lower level people of Jannah know that there exists a greater amount of happiness and pleasure and so on in the high levels, that they are missing out on that. And we could either have detailed knowledge of what people in the high levels have, or a vague idea, such as just them being much, much happier than we are. Another possibility is we could only be desirous of what our level has and just be content with the fact that we're not going to get what people in the high levels of Jannah have. Another possibility could also be that both of these types of people exist in the lower levels. So there are people in the lower levels who desire what people in the high levels of Jannah have, but are dissatisfied in the fact that they don't have it. And there are also others who are desirous of what their own level provides, whilst they are content with what they didn't get in the higher level, what they didn't get that people in the higher levels of Jannah get. Another thing is that we could desire some things that people in the highest levels have and actually get some of those things, such as visiting the Prophet or seeing Allah's face. It could be that when visiting the Prophet, that the additional possibility exists that he, for example, gives us some food or drink from his levels, or temporarily, which causes a greater amount of happiness, or that the horse riding or archery is much greater in aspects imaginable and unknowable to us. And the Prophet may also, when we visit him temporarily, invite us to do that. You also have the other possibility that the Prophet comes down to our level to visit us, and he might bring something to us from his own level. So I think these are some things to think about. They're kind of fun to imagine. Because I think we could all kind of get, I think Aladdin kind of mocks, or in a way mocks Jannah and stuff like that when Asma Hakim when he says that it's of greater quality. But I think, Aladdin, just think about this for a second, right? Just take a car, okay? Let's just say the cars at the lowest level of Jannah, they drive 10 times faster than the cars in the dunya. Then imagine the cars in Firdaus don't just, they're not just faster than the cars at the lowest level, but they're like 100 times faster. They are, they teleport, or they they are got 1,000 more features that the cars in the lowest level don't even have. And it could also be, by the way, because one could also say is that there are things that we don't even have a conception of. Like a person at the lower levels, he might be able to have befitting, desires and all that, and then whatever from his imagination he can spring up, he will ask Allah for that. But whatever he doesn't know about, he's not going to be able to, manifest it, even if it's befitting. But at the higher levels, you're going to be basically seeing more and more things that are more and more unknown to the vast majority of people in Jannah. The higher up you go, greater and greater happier experiences and pleasures and so on. So I think, Aladdin should think about it more creatively. Like, just think about general improvements of mankind. For example, the donkey versus the car. Like, we could do that in the dunya. So the idea that, like, I don't know, whatever, when Aladdin is mocking the idea of Jannah, like there's a I don't even re-say the joke. Basically, he's mocking it as if there's not much a big difference, but isn't it kind of obvious that Allah could make a massive difference? I mean, Allah's literally omnipotent. The idea that Allah could make one car 1,000 times faster for the lowest person in Jannah than every other car in the dunya, and then in the Firdaus it's like 1,000,000 times faster. Like this is like an obviously significant difference that Allah could easily come up with and will. That's just speed. We're not even talking about other features, known and unknown, imaginable and unimaginable. Like it's a lack of creativity to not really think deeply about that type of thing. Like how awesome it would be, It's It's not even like he's unable to be creative. Like Aladdin is, and every human on earth, just take 1 minute to think about how much, just in your imagination, could you improve upon the things in mankind, like their inventions and whatnot. If if you don't need to worry about rules, you don't need to worry about limitations. How much could you crazily improve upon something as seemingly insignificant as, I don't know, a window? You could make it a window as hot as the sun, or a window as cold as Antarctica, or a window that's unbreakable, or a window that is bendable, or something like your mind can imagine so many creative things, but it's like when you have this frame where everything with Islam is negative because it opposes secularism, because it opposes the no harm principle, the consent principle, then you don't make the greatest argument of your opponent. Rather, you make a weakened version of their argument and then you refute it. Now, let me be fair. The Muslims do that to the apostates too. But if we're gonna do this game where because they do it to us, we'll go back to them. We're not gonna get to the truth quicker. It's gonna drag a lot longer out, which is just a waste of time, for both of us. So the better thing to do is just think creatively and deeply about it, and just think like what I do with myself. I literally refute my own arguments sometimes. Like I just try to think about it. It's like, how would I refute this if this is wrong? And then I get a better argument out of that. That's what I recommend Aladdin and any of these apostates. Because if you start refuting your own arguments, how would a Muslim refute this or critique this? I think it would help in getting back to Islam. That's what, because eventually there are going to be things that you have perhaps never examined or thought about doubting in your life, such as your secular beliefs about morality, that you constantly use to critique Islam. Once you start critiquing those very secular beliefs, how true are they? What proof do I have that they're actually reliable in representing justice as it actually is? I think you're going to find very quickly that you're going to have shubuhat, ironically, about that. Because they're going to start realizing that this isn't very clear why it is any more reliable or true over the infinite other set of beliefs mankind has sprung up from their minds about how justice is. Although I'll get to that in another video.